All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, all of you who are here to be able to be a part of our town hall, and also thank you to everyone who is online and joining us for our town hall meeting. As you know, we're involved, obviously, in the Renew My Church process, and an important part of this process will be for us to be able to give feedback to the Cardinal and the Renew My Church team about our area, so that they have a sense of that before we do some of the structural work or changes. So this meeting is really to try and answer any questions that people might have, and of course to begin the conversation about some of the strengths and weaknesses of some of the proposed scenarios. Of course, as we begin any of our celebrations, we'd like to make sure that we take a moment to ask God to bless us and watch over our gathering. So I'd like to ask Father Tom, if he would, to please lead us in an opening prayer.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
O Heavenly Father, you call us throughout the ages to build my church, to continue to rebuild it, to continue to strengthen it. We ask you to help us as we discern what you wish for us in this local church. Help us to understand what you wish for us, and help us to build the church so that we may become stronger and, again, more closer and formed closer to you. And so we ask you to continue to bless us and bless this gathering this day. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Okay, so part of what I wanted to take a moment to do before we begin to look through some of the scenarios and such is to introduce the team. So every parish that's a part of a grouping, and again, to remind ourselves, our grouping is, of course, ourselves, St. Benedict, St. Andrews. We head to the east, St. Mary of the Lake on Sheridan Road, and Our Lady of Lourdes on Ashland Avenue. So the four of us are, it's this region of the city that we're responsible for together, and we want to see how we can best structure ourselves. So this grouping, each one of the parishes has a team called the Discernment and Feedback Team. So their job in particular is to help make sure that we have the feedback and discernment from the community, so that all of that can be brought together and shared with the Cardinal and leadership team in the Archdiocese. So representing us, of course, they asked that first of all it involve the priests of the parish, so myself as the pastor, and of course Father Tom as the associate here. Then they asked that if you have a school, because of course that's a major part, our major ministry, and an important part of who we are. So if you have a school, the principal of the school was to also be involved. So of course we will welcome Rachel, who has been an important part of the team also. Now, one member of the team should be one of our paid employees. So we have Mr. Jeff Pouch, who is our Director of Operations. He knows our finances and has been a part of the parish for quite a while and actually understands the process itself because he himself has gone through it with his home parish. So this was actually a nice way to also help us as part of the group. Here at St. Benedict, we also have this amazing community, the St. Kateri Center, which is an outreach to the Native American population really through all of Chicago and in through Illinois. And it's the only Catholic outreach. So it was important that this community also be a part of this discussion. So one of the leadership members of the community was invited to be a part of this to represent the community. So a longtime member of the St. Kateri Center, part of the leadership community, and also a deacon within the community is Deacon Bill Frere. So I'd like to thank the deacon for being a part of our participation well. And his home parish is actually also going through the process, so he knows well how this really all of this works and is able to help be an important representation for the St. Kateri Center. And then beyond that, we were also invited to invite at least someone who's a longtime parishioner. So we have Linda Creer, who has actually been at the parish. Now, did you help found the parish 118 years ago, or? It was close, though, right? You said at one of our meetings, she was actually the longest parishioner of all of the representatives, so that was really nice. And Linda has actually been such an important part of our community. She has done so much to help build up the church, and obviously has a great love for the community as well. And so Tom Tanzer is actually not able to be with us today, but he is also just a phenomenal member of our community. He has done so much to help build up this community, and both in school as well as the parish. He's on our reopening team, so he has just been such an important part as well, and represents the community. So the group of us are the ones who are called to witness to the scenarios, to listen to the feedback, to gather that together, and then to share that with the larger group. So our meeting then today is really a part of the process. We met, the way this process has moved forward, right? It started with the priests, all of the priests of all of the parishes going through Renew My Church. We began with a 3-day prayer. So we started with 3 days of retreat, praying for our communities, asking God to guide us and bless us and watch over us. And then we gathered together with all of the teams and began to talk about the strengths of each of our communities and to see some of the commonalities of what we offer. But then also, what are some of the areas the four of us can grow together in? And how can we get better at doing the tasks that Jesus has asked us to do? And then based on what we know are important, and yet the tasks that we're already accomplishing and the things that we could grow in, what structure would best help us to accomplish that of the 4 parishes, within the 4 parishes? So then from that, some scenarios were proposed. And each scenario, actually, you'll see has a little variation to it. So it's kind of scenario 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. Right? So we listed them on the website. Each of them have a little bit of a variation. And those scenarios are possibilities. They're meant to start us in a conversation. And then these are all about structure, remember, right? So the other part of it is ultimately the task that we've been given is spiritual. We're meant to go out and build the kingdom of God. And how we're doing that is also very important. So today we want to take a closer look at some of those scenarios. Try and answer anybody's questions about the process itself or about the scenarios. And then, of course, to begin to get some feedback about what we see as the strengths or weaknesses of this proposed scenarios. So what we want to do is take a moment to take a look at our slides and to see just a little bit of what we're here for today. So as you can see, we have, of course, kind of took just a quick look at Renew My Church. We're going here to receive and review the draft scenarios. They were already online, but we're going to take another look at them here, answer any questions and answers, and as I said, begin to get some feedback. So just some of the basic ground rules that we've been trying to follow. We want to show respect and collaboration because remember, it's not about us as individuals, but really about the Church of Christ, right? So we're all part of the larger Church of Jesus Christ. Well, today, of course, especially as we're going through the meeting, for those of us here, we would like to keep our mobile devices kind of off for right now. All of these things are available online, so you can always take a look at any of them. And we are going to ask that the questions, if there's any questions, and also that includes the online community, we want to get to the heart of the question so we could keep moving forward. So part of the thing is, why are we doing the larger Renew My Church? And so here is part of what we've been talking about. Where we were at one point, our culture itself was much more Christian, It was open to faith. It enabled people to live out their faith. Religion was seen as an important part of life. In many ways, we've reached a point right now where our culture is really much more secular. It's somewhat ambivalent to faith itself. We actually see people even kind of critical of those of us who try and live our faith. And rather than supporting it, in many ways undermines religion as an avenue for a way of living life. So what we've seen, what that means for us, we've seen mass attendance in the Archdiocese decrease by over 27% in the last 20 years. Across the U.S., 2 in 5 children who are baptized do not receive confirmation or continue their faith. 85% of children confirmed, so of the 3 in 5 that are actually confirmed, 85% of them will stop practicing their faith by the age of 21. So we obviously have some real issues and need to begin to address them. How are we going to respond? Well, there are 3 basic priorities that we're going to have to really move forward with. We need to begin to clearly, as communities, make disciples, build up our communities of faith, and inspire witness. These are going to be our main focuses. So, this Renew My Church journey has 2 parts. The spiritual, which is to re-encounter Jesus Christ as disciples in parish community, that we're going to take up after we understand how we're going to restructure. This first piece is structural. We want to make sure that all the parishes have adequate resources and are vital. So, these scenarios are part of the structural question, right? They were developed accounting for data such as demographics, mass attendance, financial and facility conditions, and obviously, as you can see, the scenarios reflect input from Archdiocese staff, the vicariate leaders, the local pastors. They're meant to be conversation starters. So these aren't final, and we're not voting on them. They're actually going to be, these are actually scenarios that we're going to propose later for the Archdiocese. So, here's what can result. A parish could remain in its current parish structure. So basically, it would still be a standalone parish, if you will. It'll be by itself. It'll have a regular pastor and would continue to move forward. It could unite with another parish. So the parish we have here, right, would be like St. Benedict. So if we were to unite with another parish, there would be a new parish, right? But then the church buildings could then both remain open, for example, and you'd continue to have masses at both buildings. Or it could unite with another parish, and some of those other church buildings could be closed, and all of the community would come together to worship at a single site. Schools would be could remain open individually. They could close if they were too small. They could merge with another school, or could even explore having a larger school over several campuses. Right? So here were some of the qualities that they found that were necessary for a parish to be strong enough to be vital by itself. You'd have a minimum of 800 parishioners attending Mass on a weekly basis. So where that comes from is every October, we do what's called an October count. We count the number of people who are here for Mass. At all of the Masses, add them together, divide them up across the month, and we have what is the number of people. They say minimally we should have at least 800 people attending Mass weekly. On October 2019, we were averaging 1,068 people who were attending Mass. You need an operating revenue, that means just operations, not like anything with leases, of at least $750,000 to support ministry and operations. To get an idea, at St. Benedict, we're somewhat over $800,000 as our regular income. The potential to reach a school enrollment of 240 students from pre-K to 8. Well, our potential, we're hoping, never goes back to 240, because we're well over that at 655 at this particular point. So we hope only that to continue growing. Capital repairs and investment must be affordable and prudent. So we have a lot of buildings here, and remember our parish is 118 years old. Some of our buildings are somewhat old. And I can tell you, though, that we have regularly tried to maintain the facilities, and our facilities are in very good shape, which isn't to say that we don't have many other needs. We do. But overall, we've continued to invest in keeping up and improving our buildings. And in a qualitative, any decision that ultimately has to be made has to be logistically manageable for a pastor and staff. So if you combined two parishes, for example, and said, we're going to keep both of these church buildings open, and it's like, let's say, 3 or 4 miles, and a priest, in order to kind of say those masses, would be traveling, and it would be very difficult to be able to handle, or it became so large that it became almost too hard for a priest to handle it, then that wouldn't be logistically manageable. So we have to be able to be in a position, whatever decision is made, it has to be something that would be manageable. We'd actually be able to do the job. We have to actually account for the local needs. And we can't have places that are largely without a church or a place for people to worship. So this is the kind of thing that's being looked at when we're making these judgments. Now, just so you know, when we're going to look at the scenarios, 2 terms so you understand them. The parish, when they talk about a parish, it means all of the people, the whole community, all of the buildings, the whole organization, right? So it's the school, the parish, or the church, it's all of that together. When we're talking about the church, we're talking about the building itself, right? So we're just saying this place where we worship together. So using those terms, these are the proposed scenarios then. So again, they're just saying, you know, the scenarios are a reminder. They're talking about creative possibilities. They're initial scenarios, and ultimately, our discernment and feedback team is going to continue to discuss them and also hopefully begin to give some feedback about it. What we do ask, of course, is that you continue to pray about them, to consider how realistic they are and what would be helpful, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, and always feel free to give that feedback to any of us or to the parish itself. These are just some of the extra things that would happen. We don't necessarily have to look at them very much. You can read them through. They're also available. In general, in our grouping, the schools are not basically being considered that much because of the size and strength of the school communities. So, here's just a reminder. Here's the 4 of us: St. Benedict, St. Andrew, St. Mary the Lake up on Sheridan Road, Our Lady of Lourdes on Ashland Avenue. And as we know, we are actually technically a national parish. We were founded for the German national community, which just strictly means we don't really have boundaries. And a part of our heritage, so every year, German American Day is celebrated here. All of the German clubs in Chicago come together here. Several years ago, then Governor Rauner was here to give a talk. So we usually were pretty much packed, and we celebrate German American heritage. Our area actually still is strongly German American. And we've regularly hosted priests and others from Germany who are here to study and see about how the church is handled here in Chicago. So that part of our heritage is actually still important. But now, here then is some of the scenarios. In scenario 1, there would be 3 parishes. St. Mary the Lake and Our Lady of Lourdes, as you can see, would combine to become 1 parish. The 2 church buildings would stay open, and they would become 1 parish. St. Benedict would continue to stand, and St. Andrew's would continue to stand canonically as they presently are. In the second variation of that, though, the churches at Our Lady, the church building at Our Lady of Lourdes would close, probably be sold off, and St. Mary of the Lake would be the one church there. Now in scenario 2, again, 3 parishes. St. Benedict remains canonically as it is and stands alone. St. Mary of the Lake stays as it is and stands canonically by itself. St. Andrew's and Our Lady of Lourdes join to become one parish. In the first variation, Our Lady of Lourdes stays open, the church, and so masses are offered at both locations, but St. Andrew's becomes the main area of the parish, and they're responsible for the whole area. In the second variation, Our Lady of Lourdes Church is sold and closed off, and all of the masses are offered at St. Andrew's Parish. Now, in scenario 3, again, we continue to have 3 parishes. St. Mary of the Lake stands as it presently is, canonically stays the same. St. Andrew's stays as it is and remains canonically the same. But St. Benedict and Our Lady of Lourdes join together. We become one parish. And first variation of that, both church buildings stay open and masses are offered at both locations. In the second version, or the second part of that scenario, the church at Our Lady of Lourdes closes and all of the masses are moved to the church at St. Benedict. Now, one thing I should mention, in all of these scenarios, there is a concern for the Hispanic ministry. In a case like this, let's say, where Our Lady of Lourdes has a large Hispanic community, all of those masses could then become part of St. Benedict. They could continue to stay at Our Lady of Lourdes, or St. Mary of the Lake could take over some of those. So in the second scenario, remember, where St. Andrew's and Our Lady of Lourdes joined, that same kind of thing could happen, right? All of the masses could be offered at St. Andrew's, including Hispanic language masses. The thing is, remember, it's not just about having a language. It's really about completely serving a community and culture and all of the important things that are part of having a full culture. So that was that scenario. In scenario 4, there are only 2 parishes. St. Ben's and Our Lady of Lourdes joins together and forms one parish. In the second parish is St. Andrew and St. Mary of the Lake joining together and becoming one parish. So the one configuration is this. In the first scenario, all of the church buildings are kept open and masses are offered at each of the buildings. In the second variation, while the St. Andrew's and St. Mary of the Lake parish now would keep both churches going and both masses would be offered at both, the second version of that, the church at Our Lady of Lourdes would close and all of those masses would move to St. Benedict's. In the fifth scenario, again, there's 2 parishes. In this scenario, St. Mary of the Lake and Our Lady of Lourdes becomes one parish. St. Benedict and St. Andrew become one parish. Now in this variation, then you would again continue to have 4 church buildings where masses would be offered each of the buildings. It's just that the parishes would all be combined. Now in the second variation of that, the church at Our Lady of Lourdes would also close and all of the masses would be offered at St. Mary of the Lake. However, that would not happen here at St. Benedict, St. Andrew's, where we would need to continue to offer masses at both church buildings. Okay, so what I'd like to do first of all, before we move into any reactions about those scenarios, if anybody has questions that they might find helpful, and for this, both from anybody here in our congregation as well as anybody who might be online, and we have somebody who's taking those questions as well. Yes. If you'd like, maybe because there are people online and they won't necessarily be able to hear you in the pew, if you want, you can come on up to the mic. And that way, everyone, including people online, get to hear you. Thanks, Tom.
You gave us the numbers for how our parish was doing. What are the numbers for the other three, and are any of them struggling that we should be aware of?
Good. One of the pages, one of the packets that you'll see online does have, as a last sheet, it has the basic October counts and such. So of the October counts, we're, as I mentioned, at about 1,068 in October coming in. Our Lady of Lourdes is 970 maybe. Now they are probably mostly Hispanic, so most of the masses are in Spanish. St. Mary of the Lake, so Father Manny was saying that they've grown slightly since the numbers, so there were about 900 as well. And St. Andrew's was about 780 or something, like 790 as their October count. Financially, the three of us, St. Mary of the Lake, St. Andrew's, and St. Benedict's, have money in the bank. St. Andrew's and St. Benedict are about $1.5 million or so in savings. St. Mary of the Lake had received a large endowment at one point, and so they have about $4 million in the bank. And some of that might be very specifically set aside. I don't know what the terms are on the money from there. In terms of ordinary income, in the 2019, what we saw is that St. Andrew's had a slight, they were in the black slightly. St. Benedict's was in the red slightly for its total operations. Of course, that happens, year to year. You don't always, some years you're ahead, some years you're a little bit behind. And then Our Lady of Lourdes, however, had more financial issues. None of the three of us have a debt. Our Lady of Lourdes did have a debt. However, they recently sold their convent building. They're not using a convent or a school building, so they actually just sold their convent building. They received enough money from there to pay off their debt and certainly to be able to have some money in the bank. But as an ongoing operations, here at St. Benedict, we are in very good shape in that sense that we do have a good income. People are very generous here. And we have been keeping up our buildings and maintaining things. I believe that same thing is very much true at St. Andrew's. They have a lot of fundraising, I know, but they are able to do very well that way. And I believe St. Mary of the Lake is as well. I don't know enough about the finances or the requirements yet at St. Mary of the Lake. Because it's not just a matter of where we're at right now, but what's coming up? What kind of repairs and maintenance are going to be needed, and can you afford that? Right, so that is an issue. So I can't completely answer that because I don't have all of that information. Hi, Sue. So you know what, Sue? Hold on a second, and I will bring the microphone over to you, okay? In fact, you know what? I have my lapel mic. Here we go.
Two questions. One of them concerns when we give to the Our Lady of the Snows parish for the parish sharing. How are they going to be affected, if at all, and by the merging of two parishes or more? That's one question. And the other one is, how will this merging and everything, will it or will it not affect the outreach things that we do, such as the 3 dinners a year, when we can get back to that?
Okay, good, excellent. So the questions that were asked, as you heard, first of all concern how will it affect our ability to work with sharing parishes? Well, so each of us probably have sharing parishes. So if 2 parishes did merge, then I presume that we would have to take a look at those together to decide how we can continue to support those parishes and help them. Our Lady of Snows actually has already gone through the Renew My Church, so they are continuing to stand as they are. So they're going to continue to get our support. If we canonically remain alone, we would continue to do as we're doing. Now, how will it affect our outreach? That was one of the strengths of all 4 of the parishes, that all of them do a lot of outreach to try and help others. And so definitely those kinds of things would continue, right? Because that is one of the strengths. That's about inspiring witness, showing others what it means to be a follower of Christ. So that outreach is important, and we would, all of us, continue to do that. In fact, we probably work together on some of those things. In fact, we may want to work together on some of them, even if we don't change our structures physically. So that's an excellent question. That inspiring witness is an important part of what we do. So I think we have some from online.
We have an online question that says, has there been any studies done on the benefits of doing a real estate sale versus continuing to own the building and leasing it?
So they do. If you noticed in the scenarios, if one of the parishes is merged, they would examine the possibilities of actually selling any of the auxiliary buildings, so buildings that weren't necessarily needed. So we have a real estate department at the Archdiocese that would examine them. I could tell you that in our area, real estate is strong. So if those buildings were up for sale and such, they definitely would have a number of people looking at them. So that would absolutely be able to be done in these areas. But yes, they have studied those things. And if we move forward in one of those scenarios where something is closed, then definitely we would look at what that would mean. What would be the most effective financial way to move forward with them?
Another online question is, will this, I imagine they mean a merger, impact our Mass times?
So I would say that, whether there's a merger or not, we'll probably be looking at what our Mass times are. Right now, we're in this pandemic, so it's kind of strange, and we're only taking so many people at a time. Once we move back to what might be more normal, we're going to, obviously, and we're able to open up completely, we're going to see what those needs are. But here's the thing that's going to be important. The number of priests available in service is going to be going down. So how many Masses any one of us is able to offer is going to be changing. So probably, even if the parishes stay individually, canonically the same, we're going to have to work more together. And by working more together, part of that might be offering Masses at various times so that people in this area can choose, like maybe this week I can't make this particular time, but that parish has another one starting in an hour. I can make that time. So yeah, we will probably need to work together more. So it might affect some of the times. But that would remain to be seen when the new realities are put in place.
What exactly does combining parishes mean? Does it mean just RE programs or other ministries too?
So if two parishes are joined together, they become a new parish. So for example, if St. Benedict's and Our Lady of Lourdes, like you saw in the two different scenarios, were to unite, we would no longer exist. Our Lady of Lourdes would no longer exist. The new parish would involve everything, right? So religious education, everything, right? Right? Our staff, there would be the one staff. There would be one person, one director of operations. So it would become then a single new parish, right? So that would definitely involve everything.
Don't shoot the messenger. What is Father Steve's scenario preference?
What is my scenario preference? As I've looked at them, and again, this is just my thoughts. It's obviously, I think it's important that everyone have a role. So please understand that this is just my initial feelings and thoughts about it. What I like best, the one that I think would be the strongest, is scenario 1. We don't have that up right now, but in scenario 1, okay, there you go. In scenario 1, St. Mary of the Lake and Our Lady of Lourdes combined. Now, both have strong Hispanic ministry. Together, they could be a fairly strong parish. They would, of course, have the all of that territory would be combined. Now, whether they kept both church buildings open or one of the buildings, Our Lady of Lourdes, was closed, I don't know. But it also could provide us the opportunity to maybe center Hispanic ministry at Our Lady of Lourdes Church and keep that going strong, and St. Mary of the Lake began to address more of the population change in that area. At this point, St. Andrew's is large and strong. St. Benedict's is large and strong. We would not join together, but we already work together. So we do a number of things together. What we would want to do is to begin to, actually, they say like we'll form a covenant with each other and begin to see how we can even more completely work together in different things. We would remain separate parishes, but we would work together more. And that makes a lot of sense to me, because we're serving the same community and a lot of the same people. So I guess that would be my favorite of the scenarios, I guess you could say. Though I could see advantages to some of the others as well. But I guess that would be my preference, but that's just me. Yes. Would you come on up maybe just to say something at the mic itself?
Just curious. It seems that
You got to talk into the mic.
seems like an underlying factor is closing Our Lady of Lourdes. It seems like a theme. Is that correct, or am I just misinterpreting?
So of the parishes, yeah, so you're asking about Our Lady of Lourdes. In all of the scenarios, Our Lady of Lourdes is merged with somebody where either the church building is continued to be used or it is closed off. That's true in each of those cases. So of all of us, probably they're the one place that needs the most maintenance work, and financially is probably in the weakest position of all of the parishes. So yes, that would be the case. And like I said, part of it is, so what kind of maintenance is needed to continue those buildings being moved forward? And I know that the church building at Our Lady of Lourdes, it is a beautiful building. If you have not had a chance, try and go online and take a look at those buildings. It's phenomenal, the church building, but it does need a lot of work. And so it could be hard to keep that particular building going. So that is a concern. The largest building. I don't know about that, but it wouldn't matter just how many people you could put in, because if you need a lot of work on it, then, and the larger the building, the more work that's necessary. Yeah. So it's also about how can we afford to keep some of the places going, right? Because if we're sinking resources into keeping a building going, then we can't do the ministries, right? So that's a part of it. So yes, unfortunately, as beautiful as that building is, it's probably in the weakest position. Now, I got to tell you, that community is amazing. They have so many devotional groups going. They have so many powerful things going at the parish that we definitely are going to have to make sure that whatever happens, some of that can be honored and continue to not only continue going, but to be built upon. Yeah, so, but unfortunately, yes. And that's why we want to keep, I think, parishioners at Our Lady of Lourdes in particular in prayer, because that's got to be hard. I mean, if I heard that we were going to be possibly closing our church, it would be very tough, to be walking through that path, right? And I'm sure for many parishioners who had been baptized there, received their sacraments there, who maybe even a second generation or third generation there, that's really hard to have to go through. So definitely we want to continue to pray. And we want to come up with the best possible scenario. So Marty, I know that you had a question as well.
Father Steve, could I encourage people to come to this microphone? Because that one maybe is uncomfortable for people to have their back to you when they're trying to ask you a question, but people online cannot hear that microphone. This one works.
They can't hear this one at all? Okay. So then, yeah, if you don't mind, Marty, maybe you can come on over that one.
So I wanted to confirm something I heard early in the presentation, that the schools are not a part of this.
So here's generally the fact is our school is one of the largest in the Archdiocese at 655 students. To try and combine them with anybody, see, all three schools have a different approach and different kind of a way of dealing with it. So really the schools as such are not going to be combined or brought together. They may find ways to work together, but that's something for the future. That's not.
So I went to St. Mary the Lake's website and realized that they have a school's relationship with St. Thomas Canterbury.
So their school is a little bit different, and it does deal a lot with more with a poorer community, and it's kind of run. They're not directly connected to the parish. They're really more connected to St. Thomas. Yes, the principal was here just to talk a little bit about. However, our schools will be affected by what happens with the parish restructuring.
So the pairing of those two parishes has already been decided that would, from a parish point of view, not make sense. St. Thomas and Our Lady.
No, St. Mary the Lake is not part of the grouping. So St. Thomas, St. Ida's, and Gregory the Great have all come together, and they are forming a community. But St. Mary the Lake is not part of that.
Okay.
So even though the school uses some of the facilities at St. Mary the Lake, we don't know if that would even continue necessarily. So all that has to be decided once the parish restructuring is done.
Okay, thank you.
That school, by the way, is only about 200 and something students normally, and I think right now, with the COVID times, I think they're down to about 180 or something of the sort. I think they receive support as well from the diocese.
I did have a question come in.
Sure, please come on up to the mic.
So the question asking is...
Can you talk maybe more directly into the mic so online people can hear?
Okay. How does this affect the St. Kateri Center, the only Native American Catholic outreach in the state of Illinois? As we are a ministry of St. Benedict, if we were to merge with another parish and become a new parish, would we still be able to operate as a Native American ministry, or do we come, I guess?
So, no, that's an excellent question. So Jody, by the way, is the director of the St. Kateri Center, so we very much appreciate all the work she's doing, and so she's also connecting with the community right now. So some of the members of the community are asking the questions, which is also why we have Deacon Bill here to help represent the community. My understanding is the St. Kateri Center will continue to function as it is, because you'll notice in all those scenarios we're either standing alone, but even if we merge with another parish, the St. Kateri Center is here on our property and would continue to remain that way.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please. Okay, Sue, if you can hold on just a second, so there's someone else coming up, and then as soon as they're done, I'll come back over to you, okay?
I was just wondering if the Archdiocese provided any goals or parameters about the resources that they wanted our grouping to use. For instance, the number of priests, or, did they say, like, okay, this grouping has to get down to 2 priests or 3 full-time priests across the 4?
So as far as the priest resources, they did not give us a direct number. What will happen is, obviously, a standalone parish, or a parish that remains canonically unchanged, would absolutely have a pastor. Now, our number of sacraments that we do and such is among the higher end, so we would probably also continue to have an associate. And whether standalone or merged with another parish, we would still be fairly strong. They have not directly given us numbers to say you'll only have 2 priests or you'll have 1 priest. But a standalone parish would continue to have a pastor. A merged parish would have a pastor together and also possibly an associate as well. Depending on how many people are worshiping there on Sundays and how many funerals, baptisms, weddings, things of that sort. That would also be one of the concerns for numbers of clergy. I can tell you that because I'm on the priest personnel board that the number of clergy in the next 5 years is going to be taking quite a dive, And at that point, now thankfully there's a lot of guys who even when they retire do continue to help out. But we retire at 70 at least, and so our energy levels are a little bit different, shall we say, and we're not maybe able to do quite as much as we would normally be doing. But guys, in general, the priests, even who retired, have continued to be willing to offer their services and their support because obviously we love what we're doing, which is why we're priests. So I think a lot of guys will continue to try and strengthen and support the ministries. But yeah, one of the challenges or calls is that we have to develop and work on vocations, right? So a parish that's vital will definitely be inviting people to consider this ministry. I mean, it's a great gift. It's been, for myself, speaking as a priest, it's been a wonderful life, and I'm really happy to have been a priest. I think it's a great choice. If I could do it all again, I absolutely would go back and do this again. It has been such a blessing in my life. But we live in a society where it's seen very differently now, and so vocations is going to be something that's very important for us to continue so that we can have sufficient priests to be able to do the ministry. I did want to come on over here to Sue because she had asked a question. So Sue, what would you like to ask?
What I'd like to ask is concerning any of the upcoming mergings, once they have been completed or so, who is going to be in charge of renaming the parishes, coming up with new names, or how that's going to be handled?
Okay, that's an excellent question. So if a merger occurs, what would the name of that new community look like? Well, that is actually decided by the community. So let's say if two parishes were to combine, like let's say if St. Benedict's and Our Lady of Lourdes was to combine, together the community would decide what would the name be then. This would continue to be called the St. Benedict campus, and they would continue to be called the Our Lady of Lourdes campus, but what would the parish be called? That name would be decided by the people. So we would come up with suggestions and then we would name them. Yeah, Kathy, if you can use the mic, that would be great.
So my understanding is that when they renew my church, the chances that we will get a new pastor, that you will all have to reapply for your jobs. What's the chance of us getting a pastor from one of the other churches?
Okay, good question. The question was about, obviously, our role as pastors. So one of the things that happens is when a parish enters Renew My Church, automatically all of the priests in the parishes, their terms are up. So right now, last Friday, all of us had met as a personnel board, and then all of the pastors of the parishes, we all met. We were told that, this is what's happening. So our terms are up. So it's possible that a new pastor would be assigned. When it's determined what the new structure will look like, then priests can apply for the particular parish. So what would be the possibility of, so if you want to get rid of me and you wanted to get one of the other guys, you would just have to encourage them to apply for whatever the new structure looks like. Oh. Yeah, so no, you said, the last thing we want is him. If you could please get this guy or another guy. Well, but they would have to apply as well. You have an online question. Do we have other online questions? So let's go to these first, and if you guys want to give me an online question, and then we'll also take that one as well.
If St. Ben merged with another parish that had a school, both schools are intact, how do the schools move forward with respect to fundraising and their finances?
Mm-hmm. Good question. So it depends how that, so what would happen in terms of the schools? Right now you cannot, our schools are all so large that we really couldn't combine them. Like let's take a look at scenario 5, which is my least favorite, where somehow St. Benedict's and St. Andrew's would join together. You have two of the larger schools in the Archdiocese. How, combined, we'd have over 1,000 students. How could you possibly pull that thing together? So I just think that, to me, that's just like the least favorite of my scenarios and the one that I think is the least realistic. Plus the number of buildings. So if a place combined with another, you'll notice that though what happens in all of those combinations, except for scenario 5 where somehow St. Benedict and St. Andrew join together, in which case the schools would remain separate, but how does that get governed? That's going to be that'll have to be worked out, if that was the scenario that the cardinal picked. However, if not, if it was St. Benedict's and Our Lady of Lourdes doesn't have a school, so our school would stay the same. If it was St. Andrew's and Our Lady of Lourdes, obviously, again, Our Lady of Lourdes doesn't have a school, so St. Andrew's School would remain the school. St. Mary of the Lake, strictly speaking, doesn't have a school. That's a school that uses some of St. Mary's site, but it's mainly located on St. Thomas. So if St. Mary of the Lake joined with St. Andrew's School is the parish school. So, and then in that case, fundraising and such done for that school stays with that school.
Another question. What happens to our finances if we combine with a parish that has debt or might be closed?
So that's a good question. So when parishes merge, all of the debts and assets belong to the new parish, right? So if, let's say, St. Benedict's and Our Lady of Lourdes were to join together, the new parish, whatever it was, would now have all of the assets and any debts. Now here's the thing to remember, that St. Benedict's does not have a debt, St. Andrew's does not have a debt, St. Mary of the Lake does not have a debt. The debt at Our Lady of Lourdes is covered already by the sale of the convent, and if any of the other buildings were sold, that money could also be used for the parish. So in reality, there is no debt that will be incurred at this point, right? But those assets would all of the assets would now belong to this new entity.
A similar question is, where will my donations go?
Well, so again, donations go to whatever the parish is that you belong to, right? So if, for example, St. Benedict continued to stand alone, a donation to St. Benedict would go to St. Benedict. If St. Benedict merged with Our Lady of Lourdes and it became this new parish, or if St. Benedict's and St. Andrew's merged and became some new parish, then that would be your parish, and that would be what you'd be supporting, that new entity. Okay. Kathy, did you want to ask whatever was that online question that you had also received?
If we combine parishes but have 2 worship sites, do I have to attend the other church if I miss Mass at my church?
So if we merged with another parish, we would become a new parish. So even though we would be offering Masses in 2 locations, regardless of where you attended, it would be the same parish. Right? So if St. Andrew's, let's say, and St. Benedict's were somehow to combine, whether you attended Mass here or there, the new parish of St. Andrew, St. Benedict / would now be your parish. So regardless of where you attended, you would still be at the parish, right? So just because we have 2 worship sites doesn't mean you have to go twice every weekend. But you could donate twice every weekend. That would be okay. We would be happy with that, believe me. In fact, you could donate twice every weekend even if you don't merge with another parish. That would also be fine.
I have an online question from one of our parishioners, and he wants to know, what if they move the Qatari Center to St. Mary of the Lakes? That would leave more room for St. Ben's to expand.
So the question was about moving the St. Qatari Center. The difficulty with that would be, first of all, we don't necessarily need the space for our own operations. We still have space to expand in. Because remember, last year we had retired the high school, So we have expanded into some of that space, and we have plans to expand even further into that space. So we still have space to move in. And even within the Kateri Center, remember it's the whole convent, so the Kateri Center takes part of it, and we still have room there as well. So we wouldn't need to move. And besides, that's a lot of work to try and move the center. This is a perfect location for it. And so I don't see that happening.
I have another question.
Please.
My question is, so you have only just been here a few years, and Father Manny's only been there a few years. Someone like Father Sergio, who it's his 12th year, and he should be leaving anyway, would he be leaving?
So again, the question is about the pastors of the parish, right? Father Manny has only been there about a year, and I've been here, I'm starting my 4th year. Father Mike Shanahan at Our Lady of Lourdes has been there for 13 years, so he's actually beyond a 12-year term. Father Sergio, I believe, is entering his 12th year. But what happens, how we get assigned, that remains for a few questions, right? Because it's the boards will make some recommendations. So first of all, we have to wait till whatever the new configuration looks like. Then once we know that, who's going to apply? And then based on that, the local vicar, the local bishop has some input. The personnel board has input. The vicars for priests have input. Some of the leadership of the archdiocese has input. And based on all of that, the cardinal listens. So in March, we have this larger meeting where all of our input is placed before the cardinal, who makes a final decision. So we'll say, as a board, we recommend that so-and-so be the pastor of the new parish or the parish, and then the cardinal makes that final decision. So it's hard to say exactly what would happen. We'll just have to wait and see. First, we have to see what the new configurations are going to look like, right? So if nothing really changes, like for example, if St. Benedict stayed the same, if St. Andrew stayed the same, it's likely, but not absolutely the case, that we would continue in our present roles.
I have two questions. Number one, do we have an idea when the decision is going to be made? And secondly, once the decision is made, do we have an idea how much afterwards actually going to be implemented? Because when we do it liturgy, if we get decided in January but got Lent coming, or if we get decided after Easter, then we have to worry about.
So our set of groupings, the decision, we're going to write to the executive board of the Renew My Church Committee. We're going to write to them and suggest what we think is the best scenario in December. By early January, that will go before the Presbyteral Council or the Priests' Council, so they could give input to the cardinal as well, and he should be making his decision by the end of January. So our grouping will know what we're going to look like by the end of January, and then come July 1st, we would start this new scenario and begin to look at more closely how we're going to move forward. So July 1st, it would be implemented. By, let's say, January 30th at the latest, we would know what the new scenario is.
All right, this came from someone after Father's comment about changing and reassigning. Did I understand correctly, even if there are no changes at St. Ben's, we don't merge with anyone else, is there a chance Father Steve could still get reassigned?
So yes, so could I be reassigned? Yes, my hope that I'm reassigned, I'd like to continue, but right now I don't have a term as such, and for all of us our terms are up, but I think things have been going really well. I love being here. This is a great place, and if there's absolutely no changes, if we can continue to canonically stand as we are, I would hope that I get reassigned, and I think there's a good chance of that. So I believe that would be able to continue. But of course, here's the thing that's important to remember. Even if there's no canonical change, so even if St. Benedict's remains as it is, and even if I'm reassigned, we have to change. in the sense that we have to become even more vital. We have to refocus ourselves on what it means to be a community of faith. How do we proclaim the word? How do we become stronger disciples ourselves? How do we get this ministry and mission that Christ has given us even more clearly to the parish around? But so actually my hope is that I would continue to stay, and I think there's a good possibility, We'll see. Unless Jeff continues to write and tell them to remove me, which he keeps doing every day, He's saying, change him, get him out of here. You're suggesting I should cut his pay? Wow. I know, right? That's good. Interesting. Yes, please.
So in this document, under challenges, it says priests are tasked with many administrative responsibilities. And I've noticed how busy you guys are since I, first started here a couple of years ago, or a year ago, whatever it was. It seems like that would even become more pronounced with all these merges, because everything's bigger and there's more and there's more. So maybe they would add somebody, I guess, to a parish or something, or is there any thought about reducing your administrative duties, maybe bringing somebody that's not a priest on board?
Mm-hmm. So it's an excellent question. It's about the administrative part. So our duties obviously involve both administration, if you're a pastor, as well as the spiritual component. And so what I have to say is, in being here at St. Benedict, I'm really blessed because I have a great leadership team that are here. So, obviously, some of the leadership team you see, so I don't have to worry about things like a lot of the finances and HR and oversee, because Jeff takes care of that. I don't have to worry about the schools as such because Rachel does such a great job. I have a head of IT. We have a head of advancement. These are the things that priests rely on if they're in parishes. That still leaves a lot to do, mind you, right? And in fact, each Monday, the heads of all the parts, we get together in a meeting, the administrative team meeting, just to make sure we're heading in the right direction, right? But a priest, because there are going to be fewer of us, we're going to have to rely more on being a part of the spiritual component, the pastoral component, and have the group of lay people who really know what they're doing in terms of administrative stuff also step forward. And with parish mergers, there'll be more finances to be able to afford qualified people, right? That's why I don't want to cut Jeff's pay, because I don't want to lose him to somebody else who might say, well, I'm going to try and hire him away. Ooh, now she wants to raise your pay. I know, right? Wow. Possibly, yes. If the parish increased in size, it's possible that we would have to increase our lay staff. Yes, absolutely. Now, we have to be able to afford it, right? So we have to have the financial resources to actually be able to do that.
Okay. Has there been any covenants for ministry proposed for Our Lady of Lourdes and St. Mary of the Lake? Would there be a possibility to expand the covenant for ministry that currently involves St. Ben's and St. Andrew's to include those parishes?
So that's an excellent question. So at this point, Our Lady of Lourdes and St. Mary of the Lake have done some things together, just as St. Ben's and St. Andrew's have. We've probably done more things together, but yes. So both sets of parishes have done things together. Are there ways we could expand that? Absolutely. There are many ways we could expand what we do together. And our hope is that, so you notice in scenario one, St. Ben's and St. Andrew's, although we would continue to stand alone, we would be doing more things together. So that would be our hope. We would form a covenant to kind of work together on more things. And yes, that could all be expanded. Sure.
Just to clarify, and I understood this question and you misunderstood this question.
Oh, sorry.
This person wants to clarify. She did not mean you get reassigned to another parish or reassigned. You were talking about being reassigned here. She doesn't want to lose you. That would be very unfortunate.
Well,
Next question.
Tell her to make sure that she tells that to the cardinal.
I think she's listening, so you just told her.
Okay.
Some of St. Ben's properties are literally attached and can't be sold. But since a building like the Ackerman Center is freestanding, but part of our campus, how could it be sold?
Yeah, so before they would do anything like sell a facility, they would have to judge it, the ability to do something like that. So yes, certainly the thought of, let's say if we merged with someone else, could we sell one of our buildings? I'm gonna say it would be very difficult here at St. Benedict's because our school building is all one. And really from this building, you can get into the St. Kateri Center. From there, you get into the school building. You can now go through the whole school building all the way around. The only freestanding buildings are the rectory and the Ackerman Bevan Hall, but both of those buildings are actually still used for ministries and other things that we're doing. So to try and sell any of our buildings would be almost impossible at this point because of how much we use all of our. Remember, we're a fairly large parish and we do a lot of stuff. So I don't see the ability to sell off any of our building or structure, not at this time, definitely, and not for the foreseeable future. You know, we could rent some rooms at the rectory maybe. You know, we've got a room next to you, we could like rent that room out. Okay. Did anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask? So I don't know where we're at right now in terms of time, but I'd like to maybe start to get, oh wow, we're a lot longer than I thought. So it's about 2:15 now, but I would like to get some feedback if we can, just a little bit to hear from you. What do you think of the scenarios? If you have some that you think would have certain strengths or weaknesses, just, you know, because as a feedback team, we need to hear from the community what you guys see from those scenarios. What do you think are some of the best options? What are its strengths that would allow us to be strong in vital parishes, but also be able to grow ministerially to do even more clearly what we're called to do? Or what would make it harder for us to do it? That would include the online group too. Anyone's welcome. Now we are going to put some feedback forms online. So if you want to, you can always simply write some things up because maybe you want to think about it a little bit more before you try and say anything, and that's fine. But you know, we would like to hear from people. What do they think as far as you know, strengths? Oh, there was one other question that I know someone had asked. Well, Marty, I think actually it was you who had asked about what are the capacities of the building, school buildings, I think it was, right? You had asked that, and that did come up in one of our discussions. So our buildings certainly could take some more students, though not right now because of the COVID situation. So we have proper distancing, and you know, the planning and the work that's involved in it right now is phenomenal, and we could not do anything at this point. But if it was normal times, so to speak, we have 655 present students, we could take more, although that would mean sacrificing some other things. So we do have the ability to take some. I think St. Andrews is pretty tight. They're actually talking about building a couple of mobile classrooms, right, or added on classrooms, because they're looking for more space. Like I said, Our Lady of Lourdes doesn't use their school at all. They don't have a school. And St. Mary of the Lake, the other school uses it, but I don't know. They're not that large either, right? They're, what, about 200, right? Something like that. 180 or something like that. So they don't necessarily need any more space. They have, I guess they'd have a lot of space if they wanted to expand, but they're not getting the students either, so. Well, if nobody necessarily has any questions, that's fine. We're going to maybe bring our session to a close. If you do have any other questions or any other thoughts that you'd like to share, of course, you're always feel free to call. We're going to put a form up online that will have some feedback possibilities. Talk to others. That would be helpful. Yes, please.
I normally have a lot to say, but not today. You've mentioned working with St. Andrews, but it's a little vague on how we'd work together. Like, their numbers are really low in terms of funerals and weddings and things like that. Like, even though their church is strong, I'm not sure what that looks like. Another question, it's not really affecting us, but are there any transportation issues if you combine? Like, we have the bus and stuff, and like, is it cost prohibitive to use that to transport people? You know, St. Mary of the Lake isn't necessarily close, but I don't know if it's fair to ask that. But we have these resources, and if we're supposed to be bringing people to God, we need to figure out how to do that. And my final question is, my Irish group volunteers at the soup kitchen a lot at Our Lady of Lourdes, and I know during the pandemic, St. Mary of the Lake has been doing a food pantry. Is that soup kitchen going to Andrews, or do we know, or is it, like, how would we help get the word out? And sorry, I had a lot to say.
Okay. No, so that's fine. So let's go back. So first of all, what would it look like if, like scenario one, St. Andrews and St. Benedict's were to cooperate more together? But don't know yet. You know, we haven't talked about it. But we've done a lot of things together, and we could expand that. So for example, our parish mission, both us and St. Andrews have been doing that together. 1 year it's here, 1 year there. So that works out very well. There's no reason, I mean, that would be certainly something we would want to continue. Recently, there was a vacation Bible school. So I know that Kim, and not just here and St. Andrews, but a number of other parishes joined in. And we were able to offer an online vacation Bible school, which turned out very nice. If you take it back a little bit before, we ran like a ski trip, right? I remember last winter, a combined ski trip, and we joined in with also St. Edward's, right? So, right? So the National Catholic Youth Conference, St. Andrews and us went together. So in terms of other opportunities, we could look at some of those. Who knows for sure, right? So although the numbers of funerals or weddings might be different, again, that could be resources, you know, that we could find ways to work together on that. It couldn't, you know, here's another thing, like, so we all have like lectors, Eucharistic ministers, things like that. We could do training together, right? So we could do things like that. So there's those possibilities, right? We could support each other, you know, maybe in terms of the clergy, right? So if we have different needs. So in terms of how would we work together, we'll have to figure that out a little bit more. Maybe, you know, when we talk about evangelization, maybe we'll come up with a plan together and start offering some different courses or things together. Who knows? You know, and certainly someone had asked, could we work with the other parishes? Yes, absolutely. We could begin to do some different things together. In terms of what would happen, let's say like the soup kitchen that's presently going at Our Lady of Lourdes, it's been going for a long time. That's a phenomenal resource for the community. Something like that you'd want it to continue, but until we know what the new structure would look like, we can't say how or where that would happen. Once that's known, then the community can start addressing those issues. You know, so like, for example, suppose St. Benedict's and Our Lady of Lourdes were to unite. Well, that's important. We offer a daily sandwich program. They have a soup kitchen. Could we find ways to do that together somehow, right? We also have, for example, our ministry dinners. Could we do some of those things together, right? Yes, I mean, those are all part of outreach, right? So when the new structure is known, then what the individual ministries are going to be doing will be clearer. Okay? Yes. You want to grab the mic?
I know St. Ben's has a lot of strengths. We have a lot of committees and a lot of people that volunteer willingly. Now, my understanding is someone like, well, Our Lady of Lourdes, they have a lot going on too. I'm not sure St. Mary of the Woods. But like someplace like St. Andrews, they don't even have a parish council. So would their people be joining our committees? Because I don't think they have many committees over there that I would know of. So would they be joining us? And in reference to Christy's question, is the soup kitchen at Our Lady, well, I know there's a pandemic, but is it still going on? Is it still open over there at Our Lady of Lourdes, the soup kitchen?
The soup kitchen, I'm not positive. I don't know for sure if the soup kitchen is still presently serving. So remember, we were all locked down for a while, so during the lockdown, nobody was doing anything. People are finding certain ways to do certain things. Now, if that's still functioning, I'm not sure. Because like, even let's say like we support the Common Pantry, they're doing things but very differently, right? So it's possible that it's still going, but in a different way. I just don't know directly. In terms of, so again, unless two parishes are actually merging together, you wouldn't have, people wouldn't be joining, like we wouldn't form one council, unless we became one parish, in which case then the new parish council would involve members of the whole new parish. But if two parishes remain separate and are just covenanting together, they would not have, you wouldn't really be on each other's leadership councils and such. We might have a committee or two that would work between parishes together, right? So even if, let's say, Our Lady of Lourdes, St. Mary of the Lake, ourselves and St. Andrews all decided to work together, that would have to be its own committee that would determine what we were doing together, right? But individual locations would have their own leadership structure. St. Andrews, for example, doesn't have a parish council, but they have a leadership group commission meeting. So like we have commissions, but also the council, but they would have a commission leadership structure. But I think they're working to rebuild a council there. And actually, once we restart, once this whole thing is over, it's going to be important for all of us to relook at ourselves and to redetermine how we do leadership and how as a community we grow and our strength. And so that's going to be an important question for everyone to ask. How do we rebuild ourselves and become once again a strong and vital parish? So let me grab, I think there's an online question or so.
This is a season of polls, and our latest poll is showing scenario 1 has 2 votes.
Okay. Well, so we're not actually voting as such, but the question would be, if they are in favor of scenario 1, what do they see as the strengths of those scenarios that would make it the best choice? Right? So it's not sufficient to say, well, then we get to stand by ourselves, so that's what I wanted, that's the most important. Because that's not necessarily the most important. Right? It's what are the strengths that are offered and what are the other weaknesses, which scenario best meets those abilities. Right? So certainly whoever online had said they would like to see scenario 1, that's great. I just would like to hear what are some of those strengths that they see in scenario 1 that would make it the best of possible choices. Right? Was there somebody else who had something?
I don't know if you want me to promote this or not. Would it be helpful if the parishioners signed a petition to keep Father Steve at St. Ben's?
Well, so I'm on actually the personnel board, so then we would get that petition and we would all laugh at it. No, it's not up to us to make the decision. It is up to the cardinal. And no, so even a petition is not going to make any difference at all. I would hope that we've been able to do a great job here, and I would hope that the bishop does support my staying. I want to be able to stay here. But now remember, here's the thing, like let's say if St. Benedict's and Our Lady of Lourdes were to merge together, I would have to honestly look at that and say, you know, there's a large Hispanic community. I don't speak Spanish. Is there a way for me to be pastor and also be able to properly serve that community? And if not, then probably someone else should be looked at for the position. And I could move on to something where my own strengths would be more needed. Right? So we really have to see what is the new structure going to look like, and then we apply based on that. And then those recommendations, like I said, go not just from the board, but also the vicar for priests, right, the vicar general, some of the other leadership. We're all in those meetings together. The cardinal then makes the final decision, although as a board we would make a recommendation. Right?
How does working together with St. Andrews, was it? Similar or dissimilar to the way St. Matthias and Queen of Angels did not work together?
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if Queen of Angels and St. Matthias were doing anything together. I'm not sure. However, in their case, looking at the October count, so the number of people coming to Mass, their finances, so how much did they have in the bank, what did they owe, and so on. What kinds of repairs were needed on their buildings, and could they support them? Those were the questions that were being asked, and are being asked in our case as well. And what it was determined was that St. Matthias, their October count was lower, so it wasn't sustainable, that their finances were not very strong. So in that case, Queen of Angels and St. Matthias became a new parish. And this new parish, Queen of Angels / St. Matthias, whatever they're going to choose as the name, as it combines, is going to then combine assets, debts, and so on. And there would probably be the selling of some of the facilities in order to help pay off some of that debt. That is a little different scenario. In our case, St. Benedict's and St. Andrew's, if we, like in scenario one, we would each continue to be our own parish, whereas Queen of Angels and St. Matthias is now one parish. We would continue to be our own parishes, so we would be two parishes. We would be working together on different things, whereas Queen of Angels and St. Matthias are now a new parish, and whatever they do as one. So that would be, the distinction would be, that's a whole new parish. We would still be two different parishes, just working more together. You know, again, obviously I wasn't part of the St. Matthias Queen of Angels discussion, so I don't know all of the details there. I just know the little bit that I've heard from the team that was announced and such. Please. Absolutely. Please.
So we've heard about things, concrete things like debt and assets and this and that and the other, and the size and the attendance and stuff. What are the demographics of the different areas, and would they really gel together well if we shove them together? That's one question. The other question is I'm assuming this whole package is the same and being presented at the same at the other areas. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, the scenarios are the same for all four parishes. So obviously all of us are hearing the same things, right? So this scenarios are being told at all of the different parishes, the four of us, and being asked what do people see as the strengths and weaknesses, so to get the feedback. And then our team members together, we talk with the other team members. And then our writing team representative is Linda, who is actually going to be one of the ones who joins with one member of each of the other three parishes, and they will write the final recommendations for the cardinal, right? So, and then they're going to be giving a special presentation of that. So, yes, all of us are hearing this exact same thing. And obviously, because we're all kind of deciding on the same thing, they don't hear something different, right? And I forget, what was the first? Oh, demographics. That's an excellent question. So demographics are pretty stable in this area, which is, interestingly enough, called St. Ben's / North Center. So our demographics and the demographics of St. Andrews are very similar because we actually cover a similar area. What's interesting is in St. Mary of the Lake and Our Lady of Lourdes, while there was a stronger Hispanic and very mixed population at Our Lady of Lourdes, these two areas are actually seeing demographic change. So we're starting to see, especially by the St. Mary of the Lake area, a smaller Hispanic population and more younger Anglo-type population and more young professional. So similar in some ways to Andrews and Ben's. That same thing is happening at Our Lady of Lourdes. That area is also seeing this kind of demographic change. And some of the Hispanic and other communities that are there are being priced out of the area. So they're actually moving out. They're coming back into the masses, but they're not actually living there. So they too are seeing change. So it's going to be important for those two communities to begin a strong outreach to the community, right? But that's also part of the reason why some of those scenarios, like where St. Ben's combines with Our Lady of Lourdes, maybe right now there's a strong Hispanic community, but it could be that there's going to be some real similarities to St. Ben's maybe in 10 years, right? Or St. Andrew's, Our Lady of Lourdes, right? So that could be some very similarities. St. Mary of the Lake or Our Lady of Lourdes could look very much the same, right, within the future. Yeah, demographics is an absolutely excellent question. Take a look at St. Benedict's here, for example. You know, you go back, about 7, 8 years ago, wasn't it? Or 8 years ago, 10 years ago, when all of a sudden we had a ton of younger families moving in, and our school just expanded. And that's a great example. The housing market, yeah, because of some of those things, the demographics had changed. That's a huge piece of what any area looks like, right? So that is always an important and great question. The diocese has a lot of information about demographics, and they do encourage us to keep an eye on that as we're looking at our own futures. Excellent. So we are going to continue to try. We'll probably put out some kind of some facts. I mean, obviously, people may not want to necessarily sit through the whole thing, but and we have this online. But we will include this. Any other questions people may ask, some of the answers for those things. We are going to ask for some what you see as strengths of some of those scenarios, as well as possible weaknesses and such. What I would like to do as we kind of look towards closing, I have this wonderful holy card here that is the Renew My Church card. It actually has the beautiful picture of the San Damiano cross, which is the inspiration for much of this. The San Damiano cross is what St. Francis was looking at when he heard Jesus say to him, "Rebuild my church." And really it's a call for us even to this day. Go to the website and to the Archdiocesan website, Renew My Church, and you can hear Cardinal Supich talk a little bit about it. On the back is the official prayer for Renew My Church. So I'm just going to hand these out, and we're going to use this as a closing prayer together. So, there you go. There you go. Here you go, Sue. Well, you can hold it because of you have, good? 3, okay, here you go. Yes, that'll be great too. You guys have? Okay. And you're good? Okay, and also obviously we'll be projecting the prayer here, and we could use this together as our closing prayer. I do encourage you, if you don't have it, take a look at the cross of San Damiano. It's actually a beautiful cross, and certainly quite an inspiration. So let's gather together then in a closing prayer. Please stand. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. And let's pray together. Lord Jesus, you speak to us today as you spoke to holy men and women who have gone before us. In every age and in our own time, you call us and say, renew my church. Pour out the gift of your Holy Spirit upon us, and so enable us to hear you clearly, to listen to each other attentively, to imagine our future boldly, to discern your direction wisely, to persevere in your holy will courageously, to stay together in charity, to surrender our own plans readily, to embrace the greater good, to hand on your gifts to future generations. May we remain in the holy company of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the apostles, and all the saints. May their example and presence inspire us with patient confidence in the work of your grace. We ask this of you who live and reign with the Father in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Just a reminder also, continue to ask St. Benedict for his prayers. Benedict was a man who lived at a time when the Roman Empire had fallen apart. He read the signs of his times, and he figured out a way to continue to build and strengthen the Christian community, and became a great source of strength, and so great a source that he became the whole father of Western monasticism. Came up with an approach that allowed the church to continue to function and to build itself. We need that same spirit now for ourselves. St. Benedict is the perfect saint to lead us in this kind of approach as well. And by the way, St. Francis got his start in the Benedictine communities. He went and formed his own way ultimately, but it was through St. Benedict that he first got formed, as many early saints. So think about St. Benedict and ask for his prayers and strength as well. He's just a great example for us. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I want to thank the whole staff that participated and made sure we were able to do this. Above all, our wizard, Jeremy, he usually keeps his fancy hat on, and he has a wizard. He's hiding behind. Ignore the man behind the trees there. So Jeremy is kind of running the whole thing, and we thank him. Thanks, Kim, for actually helping take care of all the online kind of questions. Deacon Dave for being there. Dan Hughes, of course, for operating our screens here. And thanks, everybody, for being here. And like I said, if you have any other questions, always please feel free to ask. Thanks. You guys are good? Yeah.